Okay, that voice always freaks me out. I don't know if did you hear. Okay, yeah, okay. I guess it's because Zoom's like, yeah, people spy on you. Now they know you're spying.
It's really weird. There's we tested this out the other day at work, but there was like those CAPTCHA things, that you have to fill out. But like when you fill it out, now there's an option with Google that you could listen to it. And it's the creepiest thing. It was just like, wah, 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 like this really creepy voice. I don't know what it was. And the guy would just say, hello, what is your name? Or just something really weird.
So would you have to like type in what they said or?
No, we don't even know what it was. Like the Matrix. It sounded like that.
That's creepy. I don't know how to feel about that. What's your thoughts on AI?
Do you want to know the truth?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna die. I mean, I try to be like rational about these things and not be super paranoid about the future or whatever, because I think the future is gonna be great. However, I mean, just from the research I've done, some films that I've reviewed and stuff on AI, I think we're in for a very wild ride in the future. And I think we have to be very careful. In fact, I would say I have this idea that a long time ago we had advanced civilizations. I know it sounds ridiculous, and I'm not saying like ancient aliens or anything, but what if we did? It's just that what if? What if we had an advanced civilization in the past? And basically, just because we're humans and we have a knack for destroying ourselves, we died out. We lost track of our limitations. And then, in the future, I guess with my writing, a lot of times I want to give that, what if scenario as like an idea that, I just think we have a responsibility to instill a moral and, I'm going to say, we have a moral and planetary responsibility to instill not just those fears into people, but just the possibility that this could happen in the future. I want to have a planet to come home to. I want to have, and I mean, what if AI just says, oh, screw you humans. We don't need you anymore.
I feel like that's what it would be, because there's so many solutions to fix all of our problems, and being human, we just ignore it until we learn the hard way, as like this pandemic's kind of shown.
Yeah.
And I feel like they'd be like, well, you guys are part of the problem, so we'll just get rid of you and then fix it just like that,
Exactly.
That's bleak.
I know it's bleak, but it's also like, I think and not to get too philosophical, but I did get my degree in like political theory and stuff. So I love that stuff. Just this idea that the Enlightenment idea was like that we are constantly progressing and we're moving towards, and like Nietzsche says, like the Übermensch, or all this idea of like constantly progressing. But is that really true? I just like to throw that back at people and say, is that really true? Or has humanity kind of stayed the same throughout eons? And basically we're just trying to do our best. And sure, we've like learned things and we've improved upon, as society has grown and as things have changed, we learn lessons and we do grow generationally, but people also die out and things change, right? So how much have we grown at the end of the day?
Yeah. Do you think technologies, obviously technologies like helped us advance our growth.
Yeah,
like when it was first, becoming a huge thing, like the early 1900s onward, like with the revolutions and stuff. But do you think now we've reached a peak of our knowledge with technology and we've hit like a standpoint where it's like kind of flatlined?
I think so. Yeah, because at a certain point, it's kind of like this. I always think, well, okay, so the internet could be used for multiple things. Right. You could read a book on the internet. You could watch, a cat video or whatever. But at the end of the day, how many people are, learning how to solve, like big world issues like curing cancer or solving, I don't know, like world hunger or something, like, sure, people are inventing things every day, but I guess my point being, people, I think, use technology more for entertainment purposes. And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but exactly. Yeah, I think that we have so many resources, and then just even the human lifespan, we don't have enough time to read all those books and accumulate all that knowledge. So.
Yeah, and like everything that we have, like you said, we have everything at the palm of our hands now, with how much information we can do. But the issue now is it's so much to take in that people aren't separating stuff, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting. It's really cool. Oh no, did my internet shit? Ah! And we're back. I blame the AI on that, like you said. Stupid internet. Anyways, let's have you introduce yourself and we'll just we'll go from there.
Cool. Emily Clark. I'm a writer, director, producer, artist of sorts.
Jack of all trades, right?
Jack of all trades.
It's always interesting when somebody asks, like, oh, what do you do? Like, what's your part of the creativity process or whatever? It's like, which day, like which hour,
Hey, that's a really good point. Yeah, and I think all creative people can do everything. I mean, there isn't a limitation on what you can do as a creative person, and that's one thing I appreciated when I did move to LA was just the amount of people that understood that and be like, oh, like Johnny Depp was a musician before he was an actor. He never planned on being an actor, but most people would be like, what? They might think it's strange that you could do all these different things, but in reality, it's really no different. So
yeah. And you mentioned LA. Are you in LA right now, or?
I'm in Salt Lake right now.
You're in Salt Lake right now. Oh, I don't know. I have so many people moving to LA or Georgia or wherever, so I'm just like, I can't keep track of who's everywhere.
I'm thinking about moving back in a year. So, yeah.
Did you like your time there?
I did. Yeah, I definitely feel like California lives in my heart, and it sounds really cheesy, but there's something about it. I mean, ever since I was 6 years old, I told my parents I wanted to move to California. I'd never been there. I just knew that I was supposed to be there. I just felt like my kind of people would live out there.
So were you born and raised in Utah then?
No, I'm from the East Coast.
What?
Yeah.
All right. Where are you from? Let's hear this.
Technically, partially the coast, but so I grew up in a really tiny town called Bristol, Tennessee, which, if I did have a little bit of a country twang, I could pull that out if I wanted to. But yeah, Bristol's a small town. It's actually the birthplace of country music. So like Johnny Cash, June Carter, Carter family recorded their first recording sessions there. At least the Carter family did. So that was pretty cool. And then I moved to Virginia Beach. So I did live on the coast, technically, right by the beach for a few years and traveled around. I lived in Europe for a while and Oregon for a year, and then back to Virginia, and then out to California, and then traveled across the country for about a year and a half, lived out of a suitcase, did a poetry tour, and then came to Utah.
Okay. That's quite the journey. What got you to stay in Utah for now?
Oh, well, I decided to film here. So, and my dad lives here. He's moving now, but yeah, he currently lives here. So it was good to spend time with him, but also have the opportunity. I worked on a show as co-host, movie critic. So I did that for a while. And then, of course, just getting my film finished and developed and everything, I decided to stick around.
Oh, well, yeah, that's more than I've ever traveled. So I think that's really fun.
Really? Well, where do you want to go? What's your dream place?
That's such a bloated question. I don't know, because I mean, here's the thing. I love here with my family, right? Because I consider myself more like a family guy, but like,
Me too.
I love pursuing like the craft of like whatever, if it's film or if it's writing or whatever. So I'm like, well, technically I would have to pick up my feet wherever it takes me. You know what I mean? It's like I can't be in one location, but I don't know. I don't know. I just want to travel too. Eventually I want to travel everywhere and just have an excuse to travel, which is part of the film industry. That's all you do is just travel. So
Exactly.
I don't know.
Wouldn't it be cool to do? I mean, I would love to do a travel show, and not necessarily a travel show, but just film in different countries. Like,
right?
That'd be great.
That'd be really great. And like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know to answer that question. I thought about eventually maybe going out to California, not permanently, just see how it is, since that's what everybody does anyway. But I was looking at their master's programs out there actually.
Oh, cool.
And they're so much more expensive than I am comfortable with in all the fields. So I'm like, well,
scholarships maybe.
Yeah, well, and that's how I got my bachelor's was through a scholarship. But I don't know. It's just like seeing that amount of money and then knowing people go in that much debt with that amount of money. I'm just like, that's a life of like stress and anxiety that I don't need.
Oh, sure. I understand. Yeah. I think there's a lot of that, just in general, but I think for me, I don't know if like grad school is definitely something I want to pursue too. I definitely would love to my MFA or in screenwriting or directing or film production or something like that, but probably directing, writing, or even creative writing. I would definitely do that. So.
And so before my internet took a poop, you mentioned that you were you majored in political theory, science. Oh, that's cool. Why? So what got you to shift from like the political stuff to like the artsy stuff?
Well, I mean, I've always been writing since I was a kid. So that's something, my whole family is like artists and everything. And I started writing when I was really young. My first poem was published when I was 5. And I just kept writing. I think it was like 11 or something. I had written this story and a local radio station like picked it up and had me like be on the air and read my story. And that was really cool. And I just loved doing things like that. And then when I was about 12, a short story, I had written like won first place in like a local contest. And, I was in like some like local newspaper type deal in high school and stuff. So, I was always writing and everything. And my first novel was a Nancy Drew novel when I was 12. And it's like literally reads just like reading Nancy Drew. So like my own like fan fiction, I was a big fan.
How long did that take you to write that?
Oh, like maybe 2 months or something. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Because like you, like I've written for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until like probably last year of high school, maybe first year of college is like when screenplays became a thing. And doing that for so long kind of erased how to do prose kind of stuff, And I'm like, this sucks. I want to get back into like, the novel stuff too and like balance the two because they're two different mediums essentially. Like really hard to get it back and forth,
Well, if you're interested, I've been trying to start a writers group.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my goal is also to continue screenwriting, of course, and which I also started in college too. So screenwriting in college, and then I guess it's been like 10 years I've been writing and everything, like screenwriting, but I would love to continue. And I'm writing a short story right now. So
that's always fun. I like I've been getting more into reading too, like back into reading books. Because back in like, high school and junior high, that's all I would do. But then college kind of took the fun from that. So it's nice getting back into it. But where's I going with that?
Well, you asked me
Brain
about,
fart.
I brought books, so I'll just share for fun. When we had a break. So I love Ray Bradbury. He's one of my inspirations. So I tend to like to read writers who their work has been converted into film anyway.
Right.
So Ray Bradbury, of course, Daphne du Maurier. So Rebecca, this is one of my favorites. And Hitchcock, of course, made the film, which won an Oscar. It's his first Oscar. And see if I get the year right, 1939, 1938, something like that. So that's definitely my favorites, but also The Birds, Jamaica Inn, My Cousin Rachel, Don't Look Now, The Scapegoat, all were books of hers that Hitchcock or other directors ended up like turning into films.
It's always fascinating to me, the process to adapt something to the big screen, because if you're not adapting to something, like if it's an original screenplay, right?
Yeah.
The final draft of the screenplay is actually not the final draft, right? I mean, the final cut of the edit is essentially the final thing. And
yeah.
I get so obsessive of getting the perfect draft, right? Like we have to shoot it exactly like this, And compared to like if you're a novel writer, like you go through your drafts, obviously, but like once it's published, that's the draft, like that's the final one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always interesting to see that balance out, because like once you start adapting something that was a book to the screen, essentially you have to take the best elements of that onto the screenplay. But then even that screenplay, like the blueprint, isn't the final written thing of the thing that's already been written. You know what I mean? Like it's
absolutely.
It's really fascinating.
One of my mentors, Bernard Rose, who made Candyman, I remember him telling me that because he was reviewing one of my scripts once and was like, no, Emily, if you're writing a novel or something, this would be the final. He was like, you just got to let go of that feeling of control and roll with it, because eventually you're going to be filming that. And like you said, it is the blueprint for the film. It's not the film, and the film is going to be so different. Right. So, so I really do try to keep that in mind when I'm writing, but it is hard. And especially nowadays, I feel like with the amount of content that's out there and amount of people trying to write and everything, which is awesome. But at the same time, I think there's even a greater push for the best work available. So, the kind of work that is actually going to cut through the noise and get made is going to be that super high quality work that's just not your average script.
Love it though. I love writing. I mean, it's just the headaches of letting go, like you said. But I mean, essentially, if you do let go, then that allows you to grow too. That's just like philosophy for life, even,
Like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. You just gotta let your babies grow. What inspired you to be a writer? Like, what's your first memory of reading a book or like watching a movie and being like, that's something I might want to do? Because you mentioned that you were 6 when you knew that you wanted to move to California. Like, was it around that time or?
I think so. Like first films that I remember, of course, like Princess Bride when I was a really little kid. But when I got a little bit older, I watched a lot of Hitchcock. So like Saboteur, I think the first film that I really saw and I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to make something like that was the 39 Steps. And it was just so thrilling. There was something about it that I couldn't put my finger on, but I had been, producing like plays at home, or apparently I told my mom I would be like, come watch my movie. And then I would just be playing with my toys, but I would do the sound effects and the music in my head. And I had like, the orchestration in my head, but like the whole thing, it would just be like this epic battle or something, she'd have to watch it. So I was doing that. And then when I got older, I had my own radio show. So I would do all the voices, the different characters, and that was fun. Yeah, just constantly coming up with stuff. But then, yeah, like my friend and I actually did make our first film. But yeah, I would say like Hitchcock, and then book wise, I mean, I read a lot of mysteries and stuff. Of course, like Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, read all of those. Sherlock Holmes, and what were some other? I think, as I got older, like more inspiration came from, let's just say, like horror films, more like Dracula or anything supernatural. I really like a lot. Like The Changeling is a good film, or just like as we grow and develop, our tastes change and everything. So more recently, like Kubrick, Truffaut, Kurosawa, Ingmar Bergman, see if I'm pronouncing his name right, Krzysztof Kieślowski, a Polish filmmaker. I really liked his stuff a lot. So, and that was, like in college and everything. So I started, I think, developing more of a taste for world cinema, and trying to, watch as many films as I could. But for sure, film noir was like what I grew up on.
I love noir. Have you seen No Sudden Moves on HBO?
No.
So it's a Steven Soderbergh movie. It's his new one with Benicio del Toro, and I think it's Don Cheadle, but it's a noir to its core.
Is it really? Okay, I'm totally writing that down. Or tell me later, because it's called. Okay, I'm gonna save it so I don't forget.
Yeah, and it's like, because Soderbergh's really Soderberghy. He shoots like on a fisheye lens throughout the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's just like, wow, what?
That's unusual.
But it's really good. It's a really solid story. But I'm right there with you though, because like all those names, like I haven't seen any how do you say Kurosawa, right?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen any of his films. I know it's blasphemy to admit that, but
okay. That's
like okay. I haven't seen The Godfather until this year.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. And so, but that's on my list, and like I'm tempted to blind buy movies from like the Criterion specials, like when they have those sales going on,
Oh,
I just want to
get the channel. You can get a free month of Criterion channel.
What?
Yeah, there's a whole channel, the Criterion channel. And if you're down, I will totally watch one with you this weekend. We can watch like Seven Samurai or something.
See, and that's one everybody talks about. I'm like, what? And then you watch these movies now, and they're like I mean, for like The Last Jedi, for example, like a Star Wars film, right?
Oh yeah.
It's set up like a lot of the scenes are set up exactly how I guess like the samurai movie was, and with like shot by shot kind of a thing. I'm like, it's so fascinating how it could just influence us like 60, 70 years down the road. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is really fascinating. I mean, honestly, there's so many films that I haven't seen either. So I have a lot on my list, but I've been watching, what did I see? The Days of Heaven that I watched. I'm trying to remember all the films that I've been watching lately, but yeah, some really good films. So is that
and like I'm glad you mentioned how'd you say his last name? I say Kieślowski, but I'm probably butchering it. But he has a quote that I absolutely love, where he's like, you could be in a coffee shop and then you could see somebody walk in and then they walk out, and that's the only time you see them ever. And like, if you ever run into them again, there's no recollection of it, right? And I'm like, that's really cool, because like the world is really small, but like we're so focused on everything that we don't focus on our surroundings, And
yes, very interesting.
Yeah, and like his movies kind of touch on a lot of that too. Like his movies are kind of depressing.
It's like the what was it, a short story about love, maybe, or it's the story where the boy watches the woman with the camera in the window or the telescope or whatever. I thought that was an interesting film, but yeah, kind of like Rear Window or something. But yeah, this idea that we don't see everything reminds me of Terrence Malick, actually,
Yeah.
He stopped filming he stopped production just to film a bird flying, like kind of randomly. But, and some people like criticize him and everything, but his work is just so beautiful. And I think sometimes isn't that our job as, cinematographers to pick up on those things, or just as filmmakers in general, or just even artists, like we should be picking up on these things that other people don't necessarily, it's not that they don't notice them, but not even just other people, that like the winds of change, this leaf blowing here, that only happens once, right? And that happens in that moment. And I think that keeps us, and I'm a Buddhist too, so there's this idea of like being in the moment, right? And the law of cause and effect that I chant every day is just like that. I believe in that things are constantly like we're creating and things are happening and things are being born at the same time. Like there's this kind of this cycle, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and the more observant you are too, like, the fact that he stopped production to film a bird, how often have we actually been outside in the patio and just watched a bird fly by, right? But like, even not even just like watching it fly by, but like the attention to detail, like how do its wings move when it turns, or, like it's like those simple things that like really can pull off a lot of cool artistic stuff, like influence you, but like you don't know it's influencing you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to the first question you asked, or just the thought about technology in the future. But that's what we need. We need those moments to pay attention to nature.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're going to save it.
I hope. The world's on fire. Germany just had a massive flood. I don't know how that happened. It's just wild right now. What an interesting time to be alive is how I like to put it.
Oh, it is. Oh, for sure. It's a very exciting time to be alive. A lot happening. Right?
Yeah. And right now it just seems like we're all winging it. I guess we've always winged it, but like right now we're definitely just winging it.
Oh, for sure. And let's see here. Yeah.
But
I was just thinking out loud.
Oh, you're good. All right. Well, in your complete journey that you've been on, right? Going to all these different states and going to school and then coming to become creative and embracing that side. I'm sure that you've seen like the ups and downs of everything so far. How low has pursuing writing brought you, or directing? Because you did a love spell, right?
Yeah.
Was there a point where you were like, holy shit, I am low? What is this? Like, if there was a moment like that, like, what was it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I definitely have those moments. I think sometimes, when you're a sensitive person, and you pick up on, or I would say, I feel like I'm an empath, but I just pick up on other people's emotions a lot.
Right.
So it could even just be like my neighbor that I'm not even seeing her, but I just feel like that energy, whatever it is, I'm just very sensitive that way. But so there are definitely moments, but especially, even with when you are making a piece of art, or you're working, on a project where you might doubt yourself, feel that you're not good enough, or, is this really worth it? Or why does it take me so long to do this when it feels like other people are very quick at doing this? But then, comparing ourselves to others is not a real healthy way to go about things. I do think, though, that watching films always helps me. So if I am feeling discouraged, or just for me, discouraged is being unmotivated, because I'm a very competitive person. I am. And I really like for me, what keeps me alive is to keep moving. Right.
Right.
So what makes me depressed is when I'm not moving a lot, when I'm not traveling or experiencing new things, meeting new people. Like that kind of constant energy and influx of change is what really excites me and keeps me joyful and happy, right? So, wintertime in Utah is kind of hard for me just because lack of sun. So it's little things like that I think can for sure affect. But, one thing I think about a lot is just every day I think about my art. When I wake up in the morning, I think about like, okay, what am I working on today? And I really just try to be strict with myself with setting a writing schedule, which I highly recommend to anyone out there who wants to be, professional artists and pursue that as their career. Like set a schedule, put the time on your calendar, even if it's just 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it is, like set aside a time to pursue your art. So that's what I, try to do. And whether it's in the shower that I'm thinking of an idea or 3:00 in the morning, I will wake up in the middle of the night and I will write down, the line of dialogue that came in my head or the song, whatever it is, I'll write it down.
It reminds me of Seinfeld. I don't know if you've watched that show, but there's an episode where he wakes up in the middle of the night and is just laughing at his most random joke. And he just writes it down, but for the rest of the episode, he doesn't remember what it was.
Oh, no.
He's like, what could this mean? This makes no sense at all. But at the end, he realizes it's from a TV show that he used to watch or that he was watching. And he's like, oh, that's not that funny. I thought it just reminds me of that.
Well, no, for sure.
Well, and I was going to say, like the other night, because I tried to get to bed at a decent time just for my job. But the other night I was like laying in bed at like 8:30, 9:00, just because I was like mentally exhausted. I know it's super early. That's early for me. Like I'm usually a night owl and I'll push it to like 11:30 or 12 and then get up at 5 because I'm insane. I know. So been trying to get back on track with like 9:00 or whatever, that way there's like the extra hours of sleep. But I randomly got this urge to write and I'm like, can this just wait? And it's like, no, you should probably just write, So I did that to like 11:30, but I got 7 new pages out of it for like the script. I know, right? And I was just like, oh, this paid off. This is like hard works. And I went to bed not as awake as I usually am after, being active, like whatever. So like it was like a nice shutdown cycle.
Very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, that's as far as I'll go with writing stuff down in the middle of the night.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we have to do that. I mean, I like to write at night. I have this theory that it's just when everyone's mind is off, like the majority of the population is asleep. It's the same thing with that energy thing. You feel less energy in the air. You feel less excitable. And it's actually like, okay, now is the downtime where my imagination can really start to flourish and roam. And I think the night, just if we think about yin and yang and like different concepts of the dark and the light, or the feminine aspect of like, I don't know if you want to get super spiritual with it, but the idea of the darkness being nurturing and holding everything in itself. So that's kind of, my take on it. Stay up late and write if you can, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me of, because I think naturally our brains are always on this cycle, right? I mean, you could sleep all day and stay up all night or whatever, but like, I feel like nighttime, your brain naturally goes to its, what do you call it? REM, rapid eye movement, right? Dream state. But if you stay up past that or around that area, like when you'd start that, like, I feel like that would also spark creativity. Like, maybe, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. That's just a theory. And I am no way backing it up with any fact at all.
Let's test it out. I like this theory.
Like, because I listen to podcasts and stuff. This one podcast I was listening to, they had this guy on who was talking about the witching hour, 3:00 at night. But he basically said a lot of people, and I don't know if he's a scientist or not, so I'm take this with a grain of salt too. But a lot of people wake up at 3:00 at night and will have, for whatever reason, will just wake up and then they'll go back to bed, right? It's like the most random time.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Then he said what he started doing was when he would wake up, he would stay awake, go outside for a walk or whatever, or meditate or do whatever. And he said the clarity that came through was astounding. And then he'd go back to bed. And then he linked it back to like all these ancient cultures. I think back in like Greece or Rome, or I don't know, somewhere ancient like that. They used to do that, and they still do that to this day, apparently. Which I think, which is kind of fascinating. But then he said that he had a ghostly experience while he was doing that. Yeah, he saw like some girl like sitting in the corner of his bedroom with like her eyes taped shut, and I was like, dude, that's a no from me. that's like a weird lucid dream. No way.
That is a weird lucid dream. Oh my gosh.
But
that's crazy.
It makes you think, like how much of that is there, and like, I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, sometimes problems that I have with writing in a story or whatever are sometimes solved in the dream. Like I'll wake up with the epiphany being like, oh, I get it now, like, so I don't know.
That's cool. In fact, the story that I'm working on now, which I plan to turn into a screenplay, but now it's just a short story, is called Lucid. And it's about a woman who's paralyzed. She's in, a wheelchair and everything. She's in a, like a care facility, right?
Right.
Kind of placed there against her will by her family, but a friend teaches her lucid dreaming and then astral projection. So she's learning how to travel while she's asleep, and she ends up meeting someone who's locked away in prison against his will because he was wrongly convicted. So they become friends, and it's kind of about their connection.
Like friends in the astral plane?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Right? Yeah, they don't meet in person. They meet in the dream, in the astral plane.
Yeah, well, I've often wondered that too, is like, if you dream of somebody that night, right? Like if they're in your dream, like, are they sharing the same dream, or are they having a dream with you in it as well, but it's a different take, like,
I don't know.
It makes you think. Yeah, you never know.
Sure. But, it's definitely a really interesting thing to explore. I love exploring things like that because there's just so many different ways that you can play with that idea. It's like what Christopher Nolan's Inception film. He explores that idea of entering other people's dreams. I mean, I've had an ex-lover of mine, like we were sleeping next to each other, and like I swear I was in his dream with his ex and family, and it was the weirdest thing. And I woke up like, what just happened? Because like I never had seen pictures or anything, but then later I saw pictures and I was like, that was the same person in my dream.
So do you think he was dreaming of his ex?
I think maybe somehow I ended up in his dream. Yeah, it was weird.
That's weird. That's really fascinating too. But did you bring it up to him? Like, what was his reaction if you brought it up?
I did not bring it up.
Because sometimes like I will have, like these dreams, I'm like, where something happens to like friends or whatever. And then I wake up and I'm like, should I call them, see how they're doing, Then I'm like, how would I pitch that? Like, oh, hey, I was just dreaming of you. That's just like, it's such a weird approach,
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, normally I think if sometimes I do have dreams of people and I will mention it to them, especially if it's like a very vivid dream and we're having a conversation.
Uh-huh.
But my dreams tend to be very vivid, and I've written screenplays like off of my dreams, like had whole dystopian sci-fi type stories came out.
Ooh. Very Blade Runner-y.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Runnery? Probably not. Okay, well, vice versa, since, we're talking about the low points, what are some of your high points that you've experienced? Like the thrills?
Oh, man. Okay. So a lot. For one thing, making Love Spell was just really magical. It was. I mean, there was just this experience that I had of, I definitely believe in like law of attraction and, having, which is basically like you as an individual saying, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to pursue. I'm going to focus on this dream and try to be positive about making it happen. Having good intentions and everything, of course, is really important, but kind of like having that dream and then it just manifested, and it happened really quickly. I didn't know anyone in Utah really. My partner and I were traveling, and he was from Utah. He spent like half his life in Colorado, half in Utah with his mom. So when we came to Utah, I actually had a shaman tell me that the land had claimed me and that I would always come back here. He said that there was something like spiritual about it. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, so when I came here, I just reached out to people. People were super friendly and easy to work with and really nice. And just the film community was very supportive of my project. I had a lot of people reach out. I had a producer who was at Sundance, reach out to me and say he wanted to like co-produce the film. And so that's how it happened, just with a lot of support. And then, seeing like winning film festivals, like we got, I think, we won 12 awards and got into like 14 festivals and 2 nominations. So overall, 14 is also my favorite number. So that was kind of cool. At least I think I'm counting right. It was either 14 or 15, but I think it was 14. So with that being said, like I got a review from a really wonderful filmmaker who worked on like Independence Day. He's known for his work on like Game of Thrones and a bunch of other fantastic shows and movies. And he was like, fantastic film, loved it and everything. So, hearing that from someone who's, a veteran filmmaker was like, wow, thank you. Of course obviously the film needs a lot of work. It's not perfect, but that he was able to see something really good in it. And then, same thing with just getting good reviews. And then I saw there's a woman who worked on Harry Potter series, The Matrix, Hugo, and like, what was the other? The Electric Sheep, Blade Runner. She worked on all these like as VFX. Yeah, no, I'm not joking. VFX designer or something. And like, I know it's like she had like seen my film, was like following it. So that just, just makes your heart like come alive. Like, oh my gosh, maybe I am a real filmmaker. Maybe this is something that I could do.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
That's reaffirming. I think that's really reaffirming. I'm trying to think like, I don't know. I think it's cool for you. I'm happy for you. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it is reaffirming because, of course, I'm aware that my work is not perfect yet. I'm just starting out as a director. But at the same time, there's like some kind of, whether you want to call it energy and motion or, I've always felt that destiny to be an artist. And like, I feel like the universe is like, yep, Emily, go ahead. Don't be afraid. Just do it.
Here you go. Here's the rewards and all that stuff. So you're working on new stuff then, right?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Is it another short or is it a feature or?
I'm working on a feature and it's really cool. It's basically like something was inspired by a story I heard as a kid that I knew of. It's like a true crime story. It's actually really sad and depressing, but my story will be like a kind of like supernatural thriller, ghost story, mystery, female protagonist. It's got it's like raw and real and all of that stuff. But I mean, my inspiration was like reading like In Cold Blood while I was writing it. So a little dark, but I think people will go to see it. At least I hope so.
I often find with these dark films, as dark as they are, the light in them is usually like the protagonist or the characters, right?
Yeah.
And in a sense, it kind of feels like the Northern Lights in that way, because it's against the dark sky, but like just little tidbits of brightness, And there's like a lot of cool messages that come through too, despite it being dark. I like dark shit, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. There's always a good message. I don't typically write comedies or anything like that. Not that I don't like them. it's just not my vibe usually. Although I just co-wrote like an adventure comedy, but it's more dramatic. It has comedic elements, but it's more.
I used to, in one of my screenplay classes in school, I used to purposely write the darkest shit I could think of
Oh, really?
just to get the reactions out of people. And like, it was nothing I would ever take seriously. Like, I'm like, there's no way I can market this or make this or film this, like there's no fucking way at all. But it was only just to get the reactions. But then I would tell my parents that, like, and what happens in the opening scene, right? And they're like, dude, like, do you need therapy? Like, what the fuck? But,
I want to read some of it. That sounds cool.
yeah, we'll talk after this because it's fucked. But anyways, well, so with this feature then, because you've only done Love Spell, right? Or have you done other shorts before
Nope.
Love Spell?
First.
Love Spell is your first. So you're going from a short film to a feature, correct?
Well,
Maybe ish, maybe.
Okay, so I do have another idea for a short film that I want to make too.
Right.
But definitely the feature is the main focus, like pitching it and getting it made and raising the funding and everything. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead. Ask your questions.
No, what were we gonna say? I was shifting in my seat, like my leg couldn't get out.
Okay. I was thinking of something. But no. There's a short. I want to make a short of the Yellow Wallpaper, which is a famous story. Charlotte Perkins Gilman, feminist author, old school, like 1800s, I believe. So this story, which my mom was an English professor for years, and I had never read this story. And the other day she was like, Emily, how have you not read this? And I'm like, I don't know. I own like 3 of her books. They're on my shelf. I studied her in college. I think her work's amazing. So I sat down right then and there, and I read it's like 10 pages or something. And I read it, and I had just gotten back from Film Quest and seen like 100 shorts. And so my brain was just like overactive, like, whoa. So immediately I saw the whole thing as a film, and I was like, okay, I got to make this. So it is something that I would like to make, but as we all know, it's probably more, it would be probably more of a passion project than something that I really, want to drive my career toward, if that makes sense. So
no, that makes sense. Like on the side kind of a thing.
Exactly.
I got that. It's interesting that you bring up shorts though, because there are movies that are based off of just short stories itself, and like you said, they're like 10 pages or they're like 30 pages. Like they're not long form at all. But these movies are like 2 hours, 2.5 hours long sometimes. And like, that's just how much substance is within these stories. Like it's so rich,
Ooh, I guess I could make it into a feature. That is an idea.
See, because I'm gonna bring up because Arrival was based off a short story.
Oh, what?
But the short story is only like 25 pages.
Oh, wow.
And it's similar, but it's also very different. So the way they adapted it was like they showed these undertones that were present in the short story, but they weren't. I don't know. It's awesome. I love that movie.
I love that movie too. Yeah, Arrival's really well done. Really well done. It has great pacing.
Yeah. Well, and I saw. Do you have Twitter? Yeah. You know how shitty Twitter can be, like with hot movie takes or film Twitter just in general. Somebody's like, what's the point of rewatching a movie if you've already seen it once? I'm like, what? What? Like you eat food,
right? Do you eat a different item of food every day, or do you ever eat the same food over again? That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, like my pizza delivery guy, this is a true story too. This happened last week. I ordered pizza and he called me like, 30 minutes later or whatever. And he's like, hey, I think I've delivered to you before, but I just can't find your complex. Like, oh, there's your building. Oh, yep. I've definitely delivered to you before. And I'm like, is that a compliment or is that a diss?
That's hilarious. He's like, is he like your guy? And then he just like forgot.
I don't know. I've seen him before. I mean, he's dropped off pizza like maybe 3 times before that. But I've noticed that if it's not him, what he'll do is he'll include like Parmesan cheese and chili pepper flakes, right? that you could sprinkle over your pizza. He'll include all that. And he was so nice this last time that he included paper plates too. I'm like,
oh, that's super nice.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I live here alone. Like, I don't.
Family of four to feed.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel so nice though. Like, thank you. But the other drivers won't even do that at all, and they won't include any of that. Like, not even like the pepper flakes, And I'm like,
that's so mean.
I know. So I always give a good tip, hoping it's him. But anyway, yes, same food, same movies. I don't know. Okay. I just watched Space Jam 2 today. Yeah.
Oh, cool! I just saw that too.
Yeah. But you just watched it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I thought it was entertaining for sure. I just felt like a child had written came up with a plot. Yeah. This kid was like, oh my gosh, like, what if this, AI person, was like a real person? Anyway, that kind of thing. But overall, I thought it was entertaining. I think kids will love it for sure. And LeBron James is like master, so he's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I bring that up because like Space Jam was like nostalgic, for like the, I guess, people closer to us, I guess, right? Like in age.
Wales?
Yeah. Yeah, that came out in 96. Like that's 21 years ago. No, that's even 21 years. Is that 21? No. I'm doing math wrong. It's 25 years ago. We're good.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like 25 years, I think, right?
Ignore me. I got an arts degree, all right?
You're fine. That's a long time ago, though.
It is. And I remember, like reflecting on it. It's like, oh, it's such a good movie. But if you rewatch it, it doesn't hold up.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it? See, I do want to watch it. It just has so many great people in it. So I really want to watch it.
You should rewatch it.
No, I thought this movie was fun for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what brought up the AI in our earlier conversation. Cause like he was still on my mind and then you're like, that got bleak. And that movie got bleak a little bit, but then it got not bleak.
Right. And I think that's interesting. So you want to see more books? This one's really good. Book recommendations, everybody.
Reason the Age of Science.
Highly recommend. Provocative, probing, lucidly written essays. Yeah. I think it's important to, like, social critique, I guess, is kind of what I like to do, too. So I'm just thinking about things.
This is the last one I read. Hold on. This one.
Oh, nice. Okay, I've never read that. What's that about?
It's about so it's like a story within a story within a story, right?
Okay.
But this guy comes across these notes from his neighbor, because his neighbor passed away, and so he's like reading this guy's notes about a documentary that he supposedly saw. And the documentary is about this family that moves into a house that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Oh, really?
And like the more crazy shit that happens in that story starts reflecting on the dude writing the notes, which starts reflecting on the dude reading the notes, and he starts telling his experiences happening outside of life. But I mean, like, it's like it gets weird formats.
Oh, wait. Okay. So is this the same writer who puts a lot of footnotes in, or is that a different writer?
Yeah, he has a lot of footnotes.
Okay, there's a famous writer that I've heard like has tons of footnotes. I don't remember. I think it's is it This Is Water, that writer?
Ooh, let me check. Hold on. This Is Water?
Yeah, This Is Water. It's a famous speech, like a graduation speech. It's really wonderful.
It is not the same writer.
Oh, it's not. Okay, but what's his name?
This guy is Mark Z. Danielewski.
Oh, okay. Who's the water guy?
Sorry. The water guy is David Foster Wallace.
Okay, so I think he does do that as well, though. David Foster Wallace. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too, I was on Reddit because I'm like, how do I read this book? Like, do I need to read it a certain way? But like, I guess if you read it certain ways, like if you read it all the way through without reading the footnotes, it'll come off a different way. But if you read it including the footnotes, it'll come off a different way. Like you get different results with each reading. Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. Well, my creative writing professor like I think my first year of school.
Yeah.
She recommended I buy this, but then she said that she would recommend I buy multiple copies because either they get lost or somebody will steal it.
Really?
Or it's just like the most bizarre stuff happens with this book. But then,
What?
yeah, if you go on like all these threads, like all these Reddit threads, like everybody talks about their experience of like losing the book.
What's the name of the book again? Now I'm gonna Google it.
It's called House of Leaves.
What? That's so crazy.
And it's actually a book. I don't know how they would adapt it to the big screen or to the I think the only way they could do it is as a TV series. Like there's no way it could be a movie.
And so like you can buy it. It's not.
Yeah,
You can buy it online. Okay, good. Okay. I was afraid like no copies exist.
Oh no.
Like a leaf, it blows away in the wind.
No, but it's more of like a cult following too. Like it has like, and the House of Leaves name comes from a poem that's in the back of the book. That's part of a collection from one of the characters. But like when you read the poem, because like, I mean, it's purposely put back there, right? Because like it's after the book kind of ends or whatever, like it's an appendix kind of a thing.
Oh,
but
yeah.
When you start reading this poem and reflecting on like on the story you just read, you're like, oh my God, but this happened before like all this event. Like it's really cool. I don't know how he pulled it off, but yeah.
I definitely will check it out. Thank you.
That's the book I've last read. I'm reading Stephen King right now, but okay. What are you accomplishing by pursuing film and writing?
Great question. Sorry, I've got itchy nose. What am I accomplishing? I would say, constantly growing. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and just growing and developing my art is, a way of seeing the world and loving the world and loving people and nature and connecting through my art. Just a better way to be a better human is like my whole thing. It's like I'm more focused on the here and now than the afterlife is kind of my view of things with the world. Let's see. I'm just thinking because I did write something, so I'll read you what I wrote because sometimes I'm a better writer than speaker. So
relatable.
I feel like I'm keeping my soul alive, and that's the most important thing. So you can find fulfilling work in almost anything in life, but can you set your heart and soul on fire in the process? That's a
poetic
story. Thank you. I'm a poet too, so
it shines. I like that. I just had a question then that kind of popped up. But sure. As a writer, you have your own voice, right? Everybody has their own voices.
Yes.
And you could kind of get a sense of like what the voice is when you're reading their works. But how would you describe your voice to other people?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Because to be honest with you, I don't know how I would describe mine.
Yeah, I think at least do you mean like for, well, I guess there are a couple ways I could answer the question. And I actually don't feel like I really can answer the question yet. But I've been told that my work is distinctive in a way, like a lot of my screenplays are similar. Like you can tell I have a distinctive style. I like to jump between different time periods. So I have a story about a young female shaman on an island. And as this storm is coming and things are changing in her life, there's a young woman who's coming of age lesbian in a city called Blue Island. So one's on an actual Blue Island, it's a city called Blue Island, but they both share this kind of connection, right? Both coming of age, the same age. One's having problems with her mother. The other one is having problems with her mother.
Right.
So there's just this kind of, family dynamics and everything like that. So I think I like to mix and match things or form unusual connections between things. So I would say like symbiotic connections or strange connections, synchronicities between things. With Love Spell, I did a lot of that. There's like if you rewatch it, you'll see not only, do I have like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in there, and there's like little like Easter eggs to other things. It's open to interpretation. And I like to make films. I like to make things that are open to your interpretation so that there's room for you to find yourself in the work. Yeah.
I like that. And I actually like those movies, like those films or those writings that do that too, where it's just, I don't know, open-ended. I like open-ended stuff because not even after a movie ends too, like the character stories still continue, right? So like the story still is ever changing in a sense. Yeah. No, I like it. I like it.
Oh, good. Thank you. And I want them to be able to leave the theater or wherever, if they're reading a book, to say, I wonder if that could happen, or let me look that up, or just to be like thinking about that concept. I mean, that's like Hitchcock's Rope. It had this powerful effect on me where I was like, I just got the chills watching it, every time I watch it. But it makes you think like, what, could I do? So, like, what's the message that I'm taking away from? Like, there is a message and there's some kind of a call to action.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you've seen it, but Ad Astra with Brad Pitt.
Yes. Yeah.
I think a lot of people this is a spoiler alert, so if you haven't seen it, watch it. But at the very end of the movie, he finds his dad, right? Oh. Anyway, okay. Well, anyways, he finds his dad or whatever, but I think a lot of people took it literal. I think it was meant to be more of like a metaphor than anything because of the way that it plays out. But it's also open-ended. Like there's no.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, like I think that's where the divide is. Like you have people who love the movie, or you have people who hated the movie, right? And I think those who hated it took the literal ending, but those who loved it took the open ending. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think, you should watch that movie though. It's really good. I liked it.
Okay. Yeah, we will share recommendations after this. Absolutely. We're going to have a movie night for sure.
It's just left and right recommendations. What are your fears of pursuing writing and filmmaking then? Like, have you had any moments of like, what am I doing with life?
Yeah, for sure. I think sometimes it's just the fear of like, as we get older, every decision we make becomes more critical.
Right.
At least maybe in our minds, maybe, in reality, does it really matter? But the decision to move to a different city or to start a new relationship, it's like the older you get, the more you're like, oh, I only have so much time left. Is it really worth pursuing?
Yeah.
Of those things. So with that being said, I think as adults, sometimes we lose this sense of wonderment and bewilderment and excitement about discovering new things, maybe because of that. So as those life responsibilities come into play more and more, and we take on, more of the heaviness of being human, right? And caring for elderly parents and those kind of responsibilities, we have to be careful that we don't lose the joy. So, yeah.
And I think that's super relevant now, especially given like how hot our climate is, both literally and metaphorically. Because I often like look at other people and just try to put myself in their reality, right? Like what are you experiencing right now? And a lot of it's just based off of fear. And it's really like not fun to think about.
Right? No, exactly. And I think
you feel bad.
if living in the moment, and I try to take those fears and put them into something creative, like a story,
Right.
So I just, anyone watching this or, that wants to write or feels frustrated with politics or whatever, turn the news off. Go outside, sit on the porch, and just soak in the sun and think about how amazing it is to be breathing. Or go down the street and feed a homeless person, or, call a friend that's sick, or, there's just so many ways that I think taking action instead of like inaction to me is like death, right? Just That's how I feel. Like inaction, overthinking, get back in your body, get to that meditative place where you can be in the moment, and then do something about it, and if it's writing, how you wrestle with climate change and racism and all of the issues that, horrors of the world that we live in, like sit down and write about it. Because I think through art, we really can help heal the world. We can change things. We can influence people, and we can also we can share and carry the burden, bear the burden with other people through our art. So so people feel less alone, right? And that's important.
Yeah, art, like you said, is so inspirational, or can be, especially because it carries so much influence into like how we do stuff for future generations, even if it doesn't work for our generation, right? Down the line, like let's say somebody comes across it and they're like, holy shit, like I often think about that, like with like other painters in the past, like Leo or Michelangelo, like were they as big in their time as they are now, kind of a thing, right? And like look how much they've influenced since they've passed away, so much. But also during hard times, it seems like art's demonized quite a bit. I mean, you have back in, Nazi Germany burning books, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why would you burn books if they didn't have the influence? You know what I mean? Like there has the power behind it. It's just a lot. And right now, I think the issue right now is that this goes back to technology and AI, right? But we have so much content on our hands. It's hard to take influence from all of them at once, and they're all sending mixed signals and mixed messages, and not every piece has to say something. It's just, I just wanted to make a movie and we made a movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just for fun. But even that's lighthearted in itself rather than other stuff. Yeah, I don't know. But
my whole thought on that, and I think that's such a great point that you bring up, Chad, is I feel like follow your intuition with that. So if you hear someone say, oh, I really think you should read this book, then go read that book, and because this happens to me all the time. I will get the same recommendation throughout my life for the same thing. And I'll hear it like 50 times, not joking. Or, it'll be something that maybe I saw. I remember saying it was like a trailer for House of Cards, the original, when I was a kid. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I will watch this because it looks like a really good show. And I have a feeling that someday this will be a big hit show. Isn't that weird? But I was like 10 or something. And obviously I didn't watch it, but then it became a big show. And I was like, oh, I probably would be interested in this story. So, I think we are all drawn to certain things. So maybe taking a more customized approach to like what we consume and not feeling obligated to watch everything, I think is important too. Or read everything, And I tell that to myself, to be kind to myself, because there just isn't enough time in the day, right? So feed your soul, right?
Right. And do you have a Letterboxd?
I just got one, but I haven't done anything with it yet.
So Letterboxd has shown me how many movies I've watched, right? And it's just stuff I can recollect or whatever. And I'm always adding stuff like daily just because I'm like, oh, I saw that, years ago. But then I was doing research, and they're saying like the average movie. Hold on. I'm going to give this answer. Just
tell me.
Average movies in a lifetime watched. That's weirdly phrased. Okay, so the average American will watch over 5,000 movies in a lifetime, right?
Really?
Yeah. My letterbox is reaching to 2,000 right now.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so in a year, though, average movies watched per year. So the average U.S. adult saw 5 movies in the theater last year and 12 movies per year over 70 years.
Wait, 12 movies per year? That's it?
Over 70 years. So it's 12 times 70 is 840 movies in that whole lifetime.
That's sad, though. I feel like they need to watch more movies. So
I know, right? Like, what? But, and then, yeah, and then it's probably 1,000 for, that's Reddit, though. So who knows? But I'm just saying, like,
changing nowadays. I think people watch more,
especially with the pandemic going on, right? Yeah, I tried to do one movie a day this whole year as a challenge.
Really?
Yeah, but then I got like really depressed. Not really depressed, but like, just not feeling it. And then I fell behind, and now I'm like 2 months behind, and I'm like, I guess if I ever take time off of work, I can just lay around and be lazy and catch up.
Right. But no, I love that idea. That's a great goal. In fact, do you have Mubi? Are you familiar with Mubi? MUBI, the streaming platform?
No.
Check it out too, but definitely get the Criterion Collection for sure, because you can just do a month at a time. You don't have to, you could do the free thing or pay for it or whatever. But anyway, it's kind of like that, but it's foreign films too. And right, a lot of really good films. So
there is, I'll just tell you another movie after we're off this, but it's a French film.
Oh, really? Which one?
It's called Incendie. It's a mind fuck. It's a political mind fuck that's like shockingly great.
Okay. Can you send me the deets?
I'll send you the deets. I'll see. There's a couple too that I believe that are on HBO or Amazon Prime that are like part of the French new wave, the noir genre.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
Really cool stuff too. But like Les Samurai? I don't know. I probably butchering it, but it's really good. And also Elevator and the Gallows.
Oh, okay.
Really good. But
Elevator and the Gallows. That's that title. Ooh.
Yeah, it's French.
And what was the other one?
Les Samurai or something like that.
Right. Okay. From 1967.
Yeah, and that one's actually, I believe that one is one that Miles Davis did, or did Miles Davis do? Oh, Miles Davis did Elevator to the Gallows.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Which is really fascinating if you like jazz music.
I love Miles Davis.
It has the jazzy vibe throughout the whole movie with like the moody shots, and it's just.
Oh, really? That sounds excellent. Maybe I'll watch that tonight. Thank you.
But all right, well, let's start wrapping this up then, because that way you have your Friday nights free.
Sure.
I like to end this with kind of 2 to 3 questions.
Sure. Okay.
First one is, how do you hope you can inspire others?
Okay. I want people to feel like they're learning something new when they watch my films. So, I think I mentioned that before, but
you did touch on that, yeah.
I want people to feel inspired and encouraged to dream and to be themselves, to live authentically, to not be afraid to be who they are, to go out and explore the world and not be afraid of the world, because the world's a dangerous, scary place sometimes, but it's also an amazing place. And I think that sometimes we're so worried that we lose sight of that, right? Maybe we're afraid to travel somewhere new or do something that feels uncomfortable. So putting ourselves in someone else's shoes or just feeling uncomfortable, I think sometimes is good because it helps us grow. So I hope that somehow through my own experiences and journey and my art, all of those things, and maybe just me living my life the way I am, that somehow that'll get through to someone and help them, enjoy their lives and share that with someone else and pass it along. Right.
No, I love that. I mean, because I think far too often in the filmmakers, writers, artists, creatives, right? We want to please everybody. I think that's just to our core. And it's probably the most natural flaw of our characters is the want to please everybody and wanting to get the recognition that we deserve, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But the reality of that happening is non-existent. Even the greatest of greats like Hitchcock and all of them, they have their own criticisms and critiques, but like you said, the hope to inspire like at least one person or whatever, I think that's like a very achievable goal. I think that's one that will leave everybody happier in the end, rather than focusing on the bigger picture, right? We're focusing more on the smaller picture, and that in itself turns into the bigger picture over time.
Yes, I love that. Very well. Aptly put. Aptly put.
So no, I love that. I think that's really cool. That's how you want to inspire people. And then what's one piece of advice that has stuck to you throughout the years, and how do you apply it? Be it to your daily life, to the craft life.
Never, ever give up on your deepest dreams and desires, no matter what. No matter what life throws at you, no matter how terrible you feel inside, no matter how great you feel. Never give up and pursue with relentless abandon. Also, always be yourself, even if you think you suck sometimes or you don't feel special. You are special. You're unique. There's something extraordinary about you. There's a great, is it J.D. Salinger quote that, anyway, there's something extraordinary about us. And you're unique. So, have heart that you're unique, but you also are just like everybody else. And I think that too is great. Just being able to share in humanity, and like everyone you see walking down the street has maybe felt this exact same way that you felt. So no matter where you are in your journey, don't give up.
And Shia LaBeouf it. Just do it.
And just do it. Yeah, just go out there and do it. And I guess that's the last piece of advice is Buddhist wisdom, right? Live in the moment. Don't worry about the past, the future. They don't exist. It's just all here and now. And time is an illusion. So live in the moment, experience what you can, but get as much done as you can now.
Time is man-made, and that's really wild to think.
Is that wild?
It is wild because, we just think of like tenses, right? Past, future, present. Mm-hmm. If time was not a thing here, how would we view the past, future, and present?
I don't know, but that's why I like to weave those concepts together. In fact, really fast here, I'll just mention, I'm writing another story, love story set in the past about a playwright, female playwright who falls in love with a theater director, and they're having, an illicit affair kind of situation. But it's also them, their future selves in a future life, reincarnated in modern day. And so I'm kind of jumping back and forth. So where one story like leaves off, the other one picks up.
I love that. I love the idea of like reincarnation being explored in stories, and like especially if it's like the multiverse stuff going on, like all at once. Like if it's all at once, so like our minds are like, oh, it's this one year, but like in reality, it's happening at the same time, just in different.
Ooh, I love that idea. That's genius. You have to share with me some of your ideas.
Maybe. Oh, there's another movie. I'll tell you that. Okay. Anyways, okay. Emily, let's wrap this up. Thank you for bearing with me with my internet issues in the beginning. Where can people find you? Drop all of your stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I am on all the socials. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, my website, and I have a movie review blog, which is available. You can find info on that. So Instagram is just my full name, Twitter, my full name, Facebook, my full name. And I think that's everything. Yeah. And my film will be out eventually. It's we got a distribution deal. It's just not quite out yet, but I will keep you posted on that too.
For Love Spell?
For Love Spell. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. You can follow the podcast and stuff everywhere, I guess. Everywhere. It's everywhere.
I'm going to be sharing it everywhere too. So.
Oh, I wasn't talking direct with you. It was just for the audience. But I mean, if you want to, feel free. That's cool. The more support, the merrier. Anyway, thank you for coming on, and I guess I'll be talking to you after this is done recording because we got movie recommendations.
We do. We have movies to see.
All right, Emily, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Bye.